Alright, so in this video I'm going to go over commas, a couple more rules. We talked about some rules in commas 1, now we're talking about another rule in commas 2. So in commas 1 we talked about commas in a series, and an example of that is I put strawberries, comma, bananas, comma, and blueberries in my smoothie. So whenever we have those items, we have commas between them. And then we also talked about commas after interjections. So our interjections are words that are at the beginning of a sentence and they express emotion. So here we've got geez, comma, that smells bad. And in our conjunction and compound sentences slides activity in class, we reviewed that when a compound sentence it has two independent clauses, and those are joined with a comma and a conjunction. So compound sentences, they always have two independent clauses, and then they're joined with a comma and a conjunction. So the audience sat quietly, comma, and the play began. So here I've put our rules that we've been working on onto kind of scrolls to solidify them. And so here we've got our items in a series rule, our interjection rule, and our compound sentence two independent clause rule. So now our new rule is about subordinating conjunctions, which are what we talked about last week. And so if you remember from last week, a subordinating conjunction introduces clauses. And so it turns an independent clause into a dependent clause. I did put the link in the slides presentation for the if you're needing a review about subordinating conjunctions. But here are a bunch of our subordinating conjunctions. And so if you have a sentence that starts with one of these, then the first clause is going to have a comma after it. And so something that people can be confused about is when does that first clause end? And so really what it is, you're separating the first clause from the main independent clause. So if you find that main independent clause, the subject and verb, and any modifiers of those, modifiers like adjectives or adverbs, then the clause that comes before those words. So it's separating it from the main independent clause. Here are some examples. So it's starting with a subordinating conjunction, once the weather gets warmer, and then the main independent clause here, I will start gardening. Subject, verb, and then, long verb. After the game ends, comma, we are going to get ice cream. And so here is our main independent clause, and so we put a comma right before it to separate that subordinate conjunction and the words that go with it. As soon as I opened the door, comma, my cat ran out. And so my cat ran out is the main independent clause in that sentence. When I do my homework, comma, my siblings often annoy me is the main independent clause. So we've got a comma right before it. And then, oops, though she had studied hard, comma, she did not do well on the test. She did not do well on the test is the main independent clause. And that's because this is made dependent because of our subordinating conjunction. So if it starts with a subordinating conjunction, look for the main independent clause, and then the comma goes right before it to separate that subordinating conjunction and the words that go with it from the main clause. So here is just a list review of those rules that I put on the scrolls. So just to review, when there are three or more items in a series, you always need a comma between each item. When there is an interjection, a comma or an exclamation point always comes right after that interjection. When a sentence has two independent clauses, aka it is a compound sentence, you join it with a comma and a conjunction. I put or a semicolon here. We're going to talk about that at a later date. So when a sentence starts with a subordinating conjunction, the first clause is always followed by a comma. So that's the rule here that we are focusing on, and that a lot of the questions on the Google form will be about. So identifying those subordinating conjunctions and then where the comma goes to separate that first clause from the main independent clause. So click the link on the remote English slides to get to the Google form, and use this slides presentation to help you. Use split screen, the tab resize Chrome extension, or just open multiple windows at once to see both at once. If you have any questions, you can find me at my email. You can also leave a private comment. My office hours are here. And also on Wednesdays, if you want to work with me on Wednesdays, you can use this link to sign up for a time to work with me on Wednesday. All right, bye.